Hello, beautiful moms and entrepreneurs. My name is Sharice Walker, and I'm your host of the Unbreakable Mompreneurs podcast. This is a place where we come together to learn, grow, and inspire. So sit back, relax, and let's get started. Hello, Unbreakable Mompreneurs. I'm Sharice Walker, your host of Unbreakable Mompreneurs, and today we have Doris Jackson-Shazier. I am excited to talk with her because we have similar things that we do, and so I always love to get different perspectives of the things that we do. And so she's an author, speaker, ICF Accredited Leadership Coach, people management consultant, and accomplished leader with over 2 decades of dedicated experience in fostering organizational growth, transformation, and excellence. So now that I catch my breath, Doris, I'd actually like you to talk with us about specifically what you do and what you enjoy doing.
Okay, awesome. So what I do and what I enjoy doing. So what I enjoy doing the most is really helping women, especially women in leadership or working moms, really help them to stop separating themselves. Like I find a lot that we have to be one person at work and one person at home. And really, I'm on a mission to help women to learn how to create high accountability and high morale at both work and at home. And so using the same set of skills in both places and experiencing success without having to feel like they have to turn on or off certain parts of them in order to be successful.
I love that. And I think that it's so important because, and I apologize, I'm at my son's place. And so my computer's literally on my knee. And so it keeps wobbling every time I move. I'm like, okay, wait, maybe. But I'm trying to balance being the mom and being a realtor because we're getting ready to list his house. And I'm like, shoot, I didn't make it home in time. And so I have learned to balance because it's hard. I remember when I used to be a different person, even in my neighborhood, because my neighborhood was traumatizing to me. And so I'd be a different person around those people. And then I'd go to work and I was completely different. And it wasn't until I realized I had hired my neighbor, one of them, to come work for me. And I come bouncing down the hall in like this great mood. She's like, Sharice, who are you? And I said, this is who I really am. I just don't feel comfortable in that neighborhood. And so she's like, I never knew. And so how do you get women to balance, like you said, balance work life, home life, and be that person?
Yeah, so I think it's a combination of a lot of different things, but there has to be this awakening and this level of courage that has to kind of come over you. And sometimes I think it's exhaustion.
Right.
Sometimes you have to get exhausted enough to decide that you don't want to live in that duality.
Right.
And I am a person that lived in duality a lot. So I'm not talking about what I heard. I'm talking about what I know as being in executive spaces where I'm the youngest. I'm the only Black woman.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sometimes the only one with children. So being in this almost like a minority experience and feeling compelled to assimilate or behave a certain way in order to fit in. And then I get to let my hair down when I go home. And what I end up experiencing was extreme mental and emotional exhaustion with having to play these dual roles.
Mm-hmm.
And so the first thing that I typically do is I kind of understand, where the duality is taking place, like what is causing them to do that. And then we will focus on, how do we uproot that? Now, I'm not a licensed counselor. So sometimes when I'm coaching women, I partner it with counseling
Mm-hmm.
because the counselor is helping them to reflect back and heal from trauma. And then I'm helping them to look forward and put practical strategies in place to help them align both parts of their lives. So what I do is again get to understand what's causing that duality. And then together we partner and create these strategies. And I kind of help them to have a mindset shift and some of the things that make them successful in one place and how those skills are transferable in the other place. For instance, goal setting. We think about goal setting as something that we do at work, or if you're in leadership, you write an individual development plan for your employee. And so I often talk to women about how can you apply that at home with your children? Do you have an individual development plan for your child? What are your goals for them? What is it that you want them to achieve and learn? And then how do you set up SMART goals to help them get there? So taking that same strategy from work and applying it at home, and now you have success in both. And it doesn't require you to turn on and off who you are or what you do or how you lead because you're using the same type of framework and process.
Amen to that, because I think it's important for us to do it for ourselves
Mhm.
because we can't we can't teach something to our kids, especially if we don't practice it ourselves. And a great conversation, like my son, very religious person. I am raised God fearing. We go to church every Sunday, and my son has chosen a different path. And this has gone on for about a year and a half. And so finally today, he's like, "Mom, I just got to talk to you." And so he did. Thank you. He's like, "What?" And I want him to be authentic with himself. And I think that for me, for the longest time, I was living for other people because, what are they going to think of me if I say this? And what are they going to do if I
Mhm.
don't do this? And what? And so I was constantly doing things for other people. And I wasn't very happy as a person. When we try to do things for other people, it backfires on you, and it does cause a lot of dissonance. It does cause a lot of stress. And so for me, I finally have come to peace with myself. And it's like, okay, well, I want my kids to have the same thing. And just because they think that they're going to let me down doesn't mean that they are. Like, I need them to feel comfortable. And
Yeah.
so I said to my son, I'm like, what are your core values? Like, this is what I want you to figure out. And I think that we need to practice that with ourselves as well, is what are your core values? And if you can't figure that out, then you got to start there.
You
You,
gotta I love you just said a mouthful, especially about pleasing people pleasing, right?
Mhm.
Man, people
Yeah,
pleasing is it's exhausting.
right.
It's exhausting. And I think I learned a big lesson about people pleasing in my motherhood journey. I'm a mother of four
Mhm.
and my kids are spread out. So I had one that just graduated college and I have one that's going to kindergarten.
Yeah,
And then I have
you're
one
bigger
that's
than
going to
me.
be a senior and a sixth grader.
Oh,
So I'm at all three schools in the neighborhood, right? But what I learned in being a parent is I couldn't please everyone. And so it became easier not to be a people pleaser, but it also taught my kids to be adaptable, to wait their turn, to understand that it's not all about them, to understand that, to learn how to clap for someone else. But you said a mouthful with people pleasing because it is definitely exhaustion. And if you fall into that category, man, does it add an unnecessary burden
right.
to your life
Mhm.
when you're trying to please others. You'll find that someone's always going to be unhappy. Like you can't please everybody.
And that's what I think I realized is I'm like, okay, I'm a good person. I don't mean any ill will towards anyone. And I believe that nobody wakes up in the morning going, what can I do to make somebody mad? Right? It
No.
doesn't happen. It's just our reactions to things. And so the fact that now you have to go into a business world where, as you said, you're a minority in many different ways. And that happens a lot to us as women because I was the same as you. I had one starting in the freshman year of college, freshman year
Mhm.
of high school. You had a freshman in junior high, like, the first year of
Yeah.
junior high, and then kindergarten. So I was there too. And I thought, oh my gosh, and you can't keep up with everything. And you have these people, these women who have their perfect calendar and everything's perfect. And I'm like, okay, I know that it looks like that on the outside, but good for you. I'm not
Yeah.
going to be that person. And once I finally said, I am who I am, and if you want to think of me, that's your choice. I cannot control your thoughts, but I can control mine. And I'm no longer going to let you run my life. And that was the most freeing time in my life. It was about 4 years ago that I just thought, I don't need this anymore. I don't need to be the eternal victim. I'm going to be the victor.
I love that. And I've said this like three times today. If you're gonna dream a dream, don't dream a nightmare. Like when we're in our thoughts, like if you're gonna think up a whole bunch of stuff, why think a nightmare up? Like think of the better things instead of the worst case scenario of everything. I think that's how we have to think about our lives. That's how we have to think about what we want to achieve. If you're gonna dream a dream, like don't dream a nightmare. Like don't make it the worst case scenario in your head.
Yeah.
Don't be the ugly voice. Like there's enough people in this world that could tell you negative things. You don't have to be one of them.
Yeah.
You don't have to hear that in your own voice.
I agree. It's almost like, what is it? You have, if you were to be a friend to yourself, would you
Mhm.
really be friends? What you say to yourself
Yeah.
does matter. And you need to talk to yourself like you would your friend. And would you be,
Yeah.
if you did treat your friend like that, would they even like you anymore? So start loving yourself.
No, definitely, definitely.
So what what inspired you? You have a book, it's called Raising Justice.
Yes.
So what inspired you to write that book?
So it was inspired by my daughter. Her name is Justice. So the title is quite literal.
That.
It has a literal and figurative meaning. So the literal is I raised Justice, who's my firstborn. But the more figurative meaning about it is raising justice in my mind is a movement. It really is not about perfection, but it is about this pursuit of excellence, this desire to raise my child in a way that I wasn't raised. And
Yeah.
sometimes we become our parents, and then sometimes we learn from our parents the things we don't want to do in
Mhm.
parenthood. And
That's
so this journey begins as a 19-year-old single, mother. I was a first generation college student on a full scholarship and found myself pregnant in a relationship that I knew wasn't going anywhere. First chapter of the book, I'll be honest, it begins outside of what I thought was an abortion clinic because it was overwhelming to think about starting my life like that. Again, I just got to college not long ago, and here I was pregnant. And so, as you read through the book, you get to hear or see, again, not perfection, but a lot of my imperfect moments and where I had to suspend judgment. I had to step back and really think about what I was doing and how it would impact my relationship with my daughter. And so it started again with me chronicling this feisty and curious and courageous 6-year-old, my daughter. And it's taken on more of a figurative meaning of a parenting style or pursuit to parent in a way that was different than what I experienced. I think mothers and parents and daughters and sons can identify with the book, especially young women that are looking for encouragement.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, it started as just journaling this curious and funny child, and it really turned into a documented story of a wonderful parenting journey.
Mhm.
Right now, Justice is a college graduate. She has her bachelor's in business at 19 years old. And
Wow.
so, yeah, and
Wow.
so I had the wonderful blessing of seeing her walk across the collegiate stage at the same age that I was when I was pregnant with her.
Aw.
Yeah,
So
I'm telling you, I rewrote the last chapter. I thought this book ended when she graduated high school initially. And so as I was writing this book and putting it together, as I was sitting in the stadium of her college graduation, is when I really realized that that wasn't the last chapter. This is it. This is the full circle moment. She's now the same age that I was when I was a scared young mother pregnant with her and steps away from the college, the campus that I walked with her in my womb. She's walking across a collegiate stage at the same age. It's just wonderful. It's powerful.
that's really cool. Thank you so for, I mean, that's just amazing. And I love those stories. And that's why I do this podcast is because being a mom can be tough, but the fact that you were 19 and you had courage to go ahead and have the baby and then take care of her. And
Mhm.
clearly you've done an amazing job because she's graduated college and she seems to be doing those
So
things that
well.
she's pursuing her dreams, her passion. And I'm so happy for you. That's great.
Thank you. Today is her birthday. So today is my 20-year anniversary of being a mom.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you.
Um, so you've had a lot of professional leadership roles, and
Mhm.
I mean, pretty up there type companies, right?
Yeah.
Prominent companies is what I'm trying to say. Has your experience in leadership, like what have you been able to glean from your leadership experience and apply into relationships and being a mom?
Um, so one of the biggest things that I learned in leadership is sometimes you're leading the inner child of the adults that you work with. We all want someone to be proud of us.
Mhm.
We all want our efforts to be recognized. We all want recognition when we achieve goals. But I think leadership has made me more human. Sometimes we focus on the differences between us, and really we're all alike in a lot of ways. One of the experiences that I received in my leadership roles is there was more times that I would like to count where I was the first person in some of my managers' lives that had told them that they were proud of them.
Wow.
My heart to know that they made it to this level, this age, and no one had ever told them that they were proud of them. And so it made it more conscious for me to say that to my children, to recognize their efforts, to recognize that I was proud of them. I didn't want to send more adults into the world that had this emptiness or did not feel loved or acknowledged by someone who was meaningful in their life.
Yeah.
And so with working with people and working in leadership, and I've had a chance to work at a store level, a district level, a director level, regional level, and I've always came across these people who you can see no one has built their esteem
Hmm.
or no one has poured into their development.
Yeah.
And so it's just made me really passionate about, do I want to contribute more adults in the world that are like this? And
Wow.
so I took some of those things and those experiences and started to craft the way I raise my kids a little bit more differently and strategically because I don't want them to go into the world spending most of their adult life recovering from childhood.
Yeah.
And I've met a lot of leaders that I can identify that this is not even about me and them. This is a childhood thing. This is something that's unresolved. And now I'm here having to try and lead it.
You know, that is so funny because I wrote a book called Flipping the Iceberg, and it came out in May, and it totally is that. Like, my
Congratulations.
son that today, and he's like, "I'll add it to my library, Mom." I said, "No, read it. I wrote it for you guys." And it's because, I mean, they've been through divorce and they've had some other things, and we won't get into their life story, but
Yeah.
there is trauma. There are triggers. We've all experienced it, whether it be a friend rejects us or it's a bad family situation, or I don't care what it is. We all have these things that sometimes some have resolved, other people haven't resolved them. And so, how can we fix those so that we can have better relationships? We can be a better employee. And so, I'm like, you better read it. But
Well,
it's
I'm
true.
going to read it also. Thank you for letting me know.
But I'm gonna read yours too. Normally I would say you're talking to your 19-year-old self, what advice? But I'm not going to. I'm going to try and change it because it's
Okay.
funny that what you were 19 and so you wrote a book about that. But imagine sitting on a park bench and you have a new mother that's pregnant for the first time that
Mhm.
has a whole world of unknowns that she's facing. What advice would you give to that mom for her child? And not necessarily newborn, but just overall.
Um, I would tell her to look beyond the moment.
Okay.
I think oftentimes where we become afraid is sometimes we are only considering our current circumstances. Like, I don't have a job today. I don't know how I'm gonna pay this bill today. And we're not considering the possibilities of tomorrow. Again, if you're gonna dream a dream, why dream a nightmare?
Yeah.
And so sometimes what happens is people start to just dream nightmares. They think, I'm never going to be able to do this. I'm never going to be able to accomplish this. There's no way this is going to happen. And there were moments in my life that, trust me, I thought the same thing. What led me to what I thought was an abortion clinic at 19 years old was I was started dreaming a nightmare. I did not know how I could recover or what I would be able to do in that situation. And I mean, I like to call it messy glory. Like it didn't look perfect, it didn't look good, but my God, did God show up?
Mhm.
And so I would tell them that let's not focus on your current circumstances. Let's dream a little bit. And if we're going to dream, we're going to dream a good dream. We're not going to dream a nightmare. So, what are the possibilities? What are the opportunities? If someone had told the 19-year-old me that you would be the director of field leadership development, making six figures in a company car and a two-story home and raising children and taking them on trips every quarter and going to Dubai and vacation in the Caribbean, I wouldn't have believed it.
Wow.
Not based off of the current circumstances, not based off of where I was.
I have goosebumps. That's so cool.
Yeah, so I would tell them, let's dream a dream and let's not focus on the current circumstances.
That's fantastic. Doris, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it. You are such an example of the type of woman that you follow those dreams. You follow your inner self and you say, I'm not going to let anything hold me back. I'm just going to go for it. And what a tribute to yourself, and your children are a perfect example of how well you have done for yourself and for them. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate the opportunity to share.
Well, thank you. Thank you. And Unbreakable Moms, I hope that you take Doris as an example of what you can accomplish and what you can do. think beyond that moment where you're frustrated with your kids, you're frustrated with the job, you're frustrated with whenever something doesn't go right. Tomorrow is a new day and you can make it even better. So go out and make the rest of today your day. See you later. Beautiful moms, remember, you are unbreakable. Keep illuminating the world with your strength, pursuing your dreams, and reveling in the splendor of motherhood. This is Cherise Walker, bidding you farewell for now. Stay tuned for more empowering conversations on the next episode of the Unbreakable Mompreneurs podcast. Until then, keep shining bright. Signing off with love, Cherise Walker.